Hey everybody, Season 5, Between Frets. I'm your host Jenny Jam for this episode. We hope you're enjoying our season so far. We have a few episodes left, and I'll be doing this one. So, it is middle of May, a couple weeks away, or about a week away from Memorial Day weekend, and so that's the start of summer. We just put some new merchandise up, so if you head to fretsisters.com/shop, you'll see some new items like notebooks and water bottles. And that's perfect for the summer season. So head on over there. We want to thank all our supporters and people that bought our merchandise. So definitely thank you for supporting the Fret Sisters and Between Frets. So the guest that I am interviewing is playing right behind me. Her name is MJ. And she's a multi-talented guitarist. She has some great content on a YouTube and Instagram page. And she's a family law lawyer. So this lady is killing it. Yes, she's doing the music and she's helping people out with their legal issues. Isn't that great? So next up, let's visit with MJ. Peace and love. We are back. Welcome to Between Frets, a space where female musicians meet and discuss all things music. I'm your host, Jenny Jam. Today's guest is rally bass guitar player MJ. She released her second EP, Gemini, in this year, January 2021, which was recorded and produced by Grammy Award winner Larry Mitchell. Oh my gosh. She is also an attorney and runs her own divorce and family law firm located in Raleigh, North Carolina. Welcome, MJ. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing so well, and I want to take a time and thank you for having me. So it's a real pleasure to be on your podcast.
Yeah, well, behalf on the Fret Sisters and Between Frets, we thank you for taking the time to talk to us because, of course, we've been, scouring social media and we find, the female musicians out there that are really putting it out there and, doing the girl power. So, yeah, we're so happy that we're happy, to take our interview and
Thank you.
Join us.
The entire music industry is just being revolutionized by, female musicians out there. So when I first started playing, there weren't a whole lot of female guitar players in particular. Usually most women that I knew anyway, either, sang, were vocalists or pianists or played like a string instrument, an orchestra or something, but boy, has that changed.
Yeah, it has changed. And we have been seeing like a big revolution of female guitarists and even just musicians. And what's so amazing is that everybody's embracing that, which I love,
Love it. So, and many of them are top-notch performers too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sometimes I'm scrolling through Facebook or Instagram and I see various female players out there, and it's just unbelievable the skill level too that they're.
I feel that. I definitely agree with it.
That's a great time to be a part of the industry. It really is.
Definitely. And that's why we want to get to know you more. We want our listeners to get to know you more and, take a look at all your work out there. Tell us how the musical life began with you.
So I first started studying probably when I was I think I started taking formal lessons when I was 10 or so. I bugged my parents for 2 years to buy me a guitar, and around 10 or so, they bought me my first electric, and I started taking lessons from a teacher that actually taught my dad when my dad was a teenager. And then from there, I moved on to studying jazz guitar, and I had a great local jazz teacher. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, by the way, which was sort of tantamount to growing up in Canada because we're so close to the border there and is used to all the snow and everything that comes with it. So The music scene in Buffalo, though, ironically, has kicked out a number of incredible players. Obviously, Billy Sheen and the like, and Dave Constantino from the Talus and the Tweeds. You may have heard of Talus. Billy Sheen started off in Talus way back when.
Yeah, I know Billy Sheen.
So I studied with a jazz teacher. I was very fortunate because he stressed, music theory and reading and ear training and reading. He taught me how to read jazz charts and transpose jazz charts. So, when I was in middle school, I'd go to study hall and finish my homework and then work on transposing different, jazz pieces, a lot of the standards out of the Jazz Real book and stuff. And then I was fortunate to meet another guitar player out of New York. His name is Tony Scazzaro. He graduated from Musicians Institute or Guitar Institute. I believe it's referred to as MI now.
Yeah.
It's the acronym that they use. But he graduated top of his class way back when. And to have him in the Buffalo area and being able to access him for lessons was just an incredible opportunity. So he always gave me plenty of homework every week. And I learned a ton from him. Great fusion player, and he plays a lot of jazz now, but he lives down in the Florida area. So St. Augustine, Florida. So I was very fortunate at that time to have a lot of great teachers. Plus, I was gigging out a lot. And then my late teens, I landed a teaching job at a local music store, actually where Dave Constantino teaches out of, the guitar player and singer from Talus, and had taught there, and then moved to Southern California to attend law school. And then it was like this whole other dimension opened up of players and access to, just things that I had never even been accustomed to or heard before, and got a chance to meet some great players out there. And I gigged all the way through law school and taught at 2 different music stores out there. And it was just a phenomenal experience. And then subsequent to that, I relocated to the DC area, did some gigging there. And as of about 2009 or so, I've been in Raleigh, North Carolina, which is quite different from, as you can imagine, from the DC and Southern California area. So there was a bit of an adjustment period, but I still do my music here, and I run a law firm during the day, North Hills Family Law out of Raleigh, North Carolina. So between music and practicing law, everything keeps me really busy. So I'm pretty fortunate.
Yeah. And that's so intriguing about you is the law aspect, because they're like 2 passions, I guess, and you're dealing with 2 major things, in your life. So what got you into, law and deciding to go to law school?
Well, it's sort of interesting because when I was about to graduate from high school, I was really trying to decipher, should I go the regular academic route, the non-music route, and pursue a degree and continue to do music, or should I go to music school? And I had applied to Berkeley School of Music and was accepted and was offered a scholarship at Mercyhurst School of Music in Erie, Pennsylvania. They have a great classical guitar program. But one of the things I kept on hearing at that time was, because I was going to go the music education route, is, a lot of the high school programs, middle school programs at that time, at least in New York, were doing cutbacks on the music programs. So it made me a little bit nervous. So inevitably I thought, well, I always want to go to law school. I could follow that path. So I did my undergrad and graduate degrees in criminal justice in the Buffalo, New York area, and then went for another 3 years to finish law school in Southern California. So I did 9 years full-time straight through of schooling. But the cool part about music is no matter what you're doing, whether it be school or work or something in between, it's one of those things that you can always continue to do. So, but I did go in 2010, I did the online Berkeley School of Music program and obtained a special certificate in rock, blues, and jazz because I always wanted to go and do something music related on the academic side. So I finally had an opportunity to do that. And I'm glad I did because I was able to meet some great players from all over the world. I don't know if you're familiar with that program, but they do 4 college credit courses online. Well, at least they've been doing it since I can remember, since 2009 or 10 or so. But it's a great program, and you can sort of study, at your own pace and everything, and have full access to the Berkeley teachers. So yes, I was pretty fortunate in that respect. But so I'm happy doing what I'm doing. As much as I'd love to be able to do music full time. I guess during COVID, I was a little bit grateful that maybe I chose the path I did, but because obviously with not being able to gig out and most of the tours being canceled and stuff like that. But I'm still hopeful that maybe at some point or not I'll get to join a tour with one of the major acts out there. I sort of have things set up in my firm now with my associate attorney and stuff like that, that if there's a mutual understanding, let's just say that if I need to leave for a certain amount of time to attend to other things, say if a great opportunity comes up on the music end, I certainly can. So
that's so great too, that it's all set up like that. Like it's like this musical, or actually not even a musical path, but your life path of how two things come together, and you're able, you go through that. You might have maybe struggled through some of it, like music and law, but now it's at a point where it's like you can, kind of make your own schedule and write your own schedule. So that's a beautiful thing about what you're doing.
And that's exactly what I do. I mean, I'm not going to lie. My schedule is very hectic at times, especially if I'm getting ready to go to trial. And then trying to balance some music things. I've been doing a lot of writing, over the last year and stuff like that, but it's fine. Once you get on a schedule and you get accustomed to that, it all works out. So the only thing I've noticed is sometimes I have to do more focused practice sessions. Like if there's a certain technique or something that I want to start incorporating, then I have to set a certain amount of time dedicated to that particular item. So, but it all works out. So I'm blessed. I can't complain.
That's awesome. So let's get into your writing. I know this is your second EP. And Larry Mitchell, I mean, he's like, I see him all over. I even actually met him in North Carolina, actually.
Yeah.
Nicest guy. And he was at a guitar summit out down there, and then at Summer NAMM. So how did that come together?
So we sort of started talking and chatting on Instagram, because I'd always been a fan of Larry growing up. I can remember there was, growing up and playing guitar, even when I started during the 80s, there was this magazine called Guitar Player for the Practicing Musician. I don't know if you remember that, but it was like one of the go-to or premier magazines, with tabs for songs, lessons. Steve Morse used to write a column in there. And I remember seeing him in the guitar magazine. So I was always a fan of his playing. And at that time, he was endorsed by Ibanez and I played Ibanez. So during the 80s, it was all about the Ibanez and the floating tremolo system, the Floyd Rose tremolo system, the whammy tricks, with Vi and Satriani and all that. So, so I'd always been a fan. So we had met on Instagram. And then as it turns out, he was playing at the Musicians Summit in Durham, North Carolina. So I'd gone down there to go check out his playing and whatnot. We've become really good friends ever since. So not only is he incredible guitar player and phenomenal musician, but he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. So as it turns out, he does a lot of production and recording work. So we had started talking about recording an EP. So he came up to Raleigh and brought his mobile setup on Pro Tools and whatnot. And I use Ableton. I don't know if you're familiar with that software, but I recorded the scratch tracks in Ableton, and then we transferred them to Pro Tools and worked them and mixed them down and everything. So I'm blessed because he's an absolute genius when it comes to production work. And even during the recording process, he was offering suggestions. No, do it like this and play this part like that, and everything. And just things I would have never even thought about, and just a different way of approaching and thinking about things. So, I'm blessed to have him as a friend. I really am. So.
Yeah, that's amazing that he did all that. I mean, shout out to Larry Mitchell. Wow. That's awesome.
And he's a wealth of knowledge. So, I mean, just about anything in the music industry, I mean, he's always a great resource to go to either bounce an idea off or just ask for general advice. So, and then I was able to get Derek Sherinian to play some keys on Gemini.
I saw that.
Yeah, so which was just phenomenal. So we recorded the tracks, then sent them to him in Southern California. He did a few takes of some different solo ideas, sent them back, and then Larry mixed them down. So it's just an incredible experience. And by the way, he's a great guy to work with too. If anybody ever needs help with keyboards or session work for any of their their original music, just phenomenal. So
that's awesome. Your EP, I took a listen to it, and it kind of gave me a Joe Satriani type vibe. And
mention that,
yeah, just like because I'm a big Joe Satriani fan.
But, Joe is great.
Yeah, but what I mean by that is composition wise, because the way he takes his compositions and how his guitar work sings. And melodies that you can sing along with. And that's how I felt when I listened to your stuff. What was your influence, I guess, writing that or your...
Well, I probably approach writing maybe a little bit different than a lot of people because it's sort of an eclectic mix of different styles. Like, there's a tune on there called She's So Jazzy. And that tune is a rockin' tune, but yet it's using, a lot of the jazz comping chords, major sevens, minor seven, flat fives, and all that. So my problem is I like a little bit of everything. So it's hard to sort of pigeonhole me into one particular style. So, I'm not really, I wouldn't classify myself as a, your typical shredder type guitar player. I've heard some people say that. I've heard the Joe Satriani influence commentary before and whatnot. And some people have said that, which, by the way, I'm very flattered and honored to hear that because Joe has always been a huge, huge influence, as well as Steve Vai. But typically when I write, what I do is I try and go for a melodic idea. So I might have a progression, and I typically write all clean too, which is a little different maybe than other people approach, maybe at a slower tempo, and come up with some melody ideas, and then throw down the sections in Ableton and just play over it until the ideas come, and then write the arrangement and then combine it together. So, and then sometimes tear it all apart, decide it's terrible, right?
Yeah.
And then because what may seem like a good idea one night, and then you go back and listen to it the next day, you're like, hey, I'm not having that. So, but that's sort of my approach to writing. And I've always loved to write. To me, that's a huge part of being a musician, right? Is to be able to, explore your artistic side and write and come up with your own ideas. So it's something I've always enjoyed doing.
I know with the shredder kind of, thing that people put up, I notice on your Instagram, what I love about your social media is you're like spreading your knowledge, you're sharing this knowledge. And you do have a lot of cool licks and you provide tabs to it. Have you ever instructed or I just think it's so cool that you offer that.
Yeah. So back in the day, I used to teach. when I was going to law school and then even prior to law school. And now that I'm so busy, with the legal stuff, I sort of wanted to get back to that. So I tab and notate a lot of my stuff in, I think it's Guitar Pro or one of those programs, but it's a nice program where you can actually tab and notate stuff out in sort of an organized, fresh format. And then what I do is, I approach different licks and theory ideas to give examples and then do a short snippet and post it up on Instagram. And sort of what I've been doing over this past year is banking away, all the PDFs to lessons and stuff, because eventually I want to write a guitar method book, because it seems like one of the toughest things for players, first couple of years when they start playing is to understand like different modal techniques and playing and stuff. But when you really tear it down and look at it from a theory standpoint, it's really pretty easy. So I'm hoping, at some point I can put together a method book that maybe offers an easier approach or way of thinking, a more pattern-based approach to modal playing and incorporating different licks and stuff like that. Because, the general misconception of modal players and shred players is that it's all very extremely technical and tough to understand and whatnot. But really, when you break everything down, it's pretty simplistic. So if I can figure out a way to convey that in a method book for other players in an easy way to understand, that would be great. So that's sort of my goal over the next year. And by the way, I don't charge for any of my lesson stuff or anything. So it's all free of charge. And that it's not that there's anything wrong with doing that. Other players use Patreon and everything else. But I've sort of wanted to provide like a free resource for people just to log on and take different concepts and incorporate it in their playing without having to pay anything. And I know everybody feels different about that. I'm blessed because, I work, as an attorney and run my own firm. So that's how I generate most of my revenue. I know for other people, though, they're depending off of what they make off of music and stuff. So, so that's my goal. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always good to like share your knowledge, and, there's a lot of, it really helps, believe me, because I'm one of them that goes online. And so I'll be waiting for that book.
And by the way, I do the same thing with other players. I'm always, my approach to music is you can never learn enough. I mean, exactly. I could spend another 5 lifetimes trying to learn this instrument, and I still won't even have learned a small fraction of what's out there. So I do the same thing. I talk to other players. I study other players. Like a couple months back, I was really into trying to get a grip on some Frank Gambale stuff and how he approaches his arpeggiated shapes and stuff like that. It's just limitless in terms of what's out there and what you can learn. So I'm doing the same thing everybody else is doing, and that is just trying to learn and get better. So
that's awesome. Well, speaking of instruments, I know I want to talk about your gear, especially your guitars, because I'm a PRS lover. Yeah. I love PRS. So I noticed you have a lot of them. So
I do. I'm addicted to them. I'll be the first to admit. I sort of stumbled upon PRS when I was in Southern California. When I was living out there in Orange County, Los Angeles area, they were huge on the West Coast. And I had a friend that had one, and I was able to convince him to let me borrow it for a gig. I'm not sure he ever got it back, or it'd been a while, but I typically play what's called it's a Paul Reed Smith Custom 24. Let me see if you can see that. But
it's beautiful.
This is one of the newest ones to my collection. It has a pattern thin style neck. Some are what's referred to as pattern regular, and I have some of those too, which is, your regular type neck. But this one's pattern thin, so it's a little bit easier in terms of playing, some more shred-based stuff and arpeggiated stuff and sweep picking and all that. But This is a 35th anniversary. Has the mini toggles on there too. So you can switch between humbucker sounds and single coil sounds and interchange these. So if you want a humbucker and a single coil, 2 humbuckers or 2 single coils, which is just wild, right? Because if you want to, get like that Fender Strat type single coil sound, you can by just switching the toggles here. So, but this is a non-floating bridge system, which is what I prefer.
Mm-hmm.
I do have an Ibanez too with a floating bridge system, but this is just my preference in terms of whammy bar techniques and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And I have a couple other custom 24s, another one with a pattern thin, and then a pattern regular neck, and then a few McCartys. McCartys are great too. They have a fixed bridge. It'd probably be more comparable to like a Les Paul feel and type sound, a little bit more body, thicker style neck, typically like wide fat, that type of thing. But the custom 24s are my go-to. So ever since I started playing one of these, I've been totally addicted. It's just everything I like about a guitar in terms of feel, style, and you can't go wrong with the tops, right?
Oh, I know. The finish is beautiful.
Yeah, and this one is actually a non-10 top, believe it or not.
Really?
It actually looks like a 10 top. You can tell sometimes, if you've been playing PRS for a long time, you can recognize the 10 from the non-10 tops. I guess my understanding is that the 10 tops have non-dead spots in the maple, whereas some of the non-10s have some dead spots. But this is a non-10 top, and it looks every bit of a 10 when you look at it. But but it is a 35th anniversary. I think they released these about a year ago, something like that, in honor of Paul's 35th anniversary. So, but he's a genius when it comes to guitar making, and just makes incredible guitars. And they're actually handmade in your home state.
Yeah, in Stevensville, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Yep, I've been to the factory a couple times.
So I have not been to the factory yet.
You have to go.
I'd love to. Hopefully one day they'll give me an endorsement.
I know they need to give you an endorsement.
That's it's been something I've been thinking about going forward, but I know it's pretty competitive. But
real quick, because I noticed a video you did. It was a Gilmore style. Was it that guitar that you used?
I actually, I used, it might have been on my purple PRS custom 24.
What you were doing, I'm like, she's using a PRS. Like, that's how versatile this guitar is. Like,
you can use them for just about anything.
That's what I love.
That's the cool thing. Like, I have a friend of mine that's a PRS endorsed artist, and she plays jazz. She's a phenomenal jazz player, and she uses PRS. And then I have other friends, that play more metal and shred and really, really heavy stuff that use PRS. And then all the people in between that play rock. I've seen country players use them. It's just a very versatile guitar. So
what about like what you use for like your tone, like your pedals, your amps, or especially in your EP, like
so that's interesting. I was always a huge tube amp fanatic, and I still am to a certain degree. And I was all about analog effects. I have a 36-inch custom New York City custom pedal board that they make. That has all analog effects. So it has like the TC electronic analog unit, the Nova system, full tone effects, Wampler effects, exotic wah, stuff like that. And then they came out with the Line 6 Helix. And I keep in mind when they first, before I tried it, I'm still not a believer because, I'd gone through and seen a lot of the other amp modeling effects through the years and stuff. And it just wasn't quite there yet, I guess. But then I tried the Line 6 Helix and I was just totally blown away because, you can pretty much simulate every cabinet that's on there. And not to mention the ease of the setup too. So you can literally just bring your pedal board, right? You no longer have to bring an amp if you're using amp modeling. And if you can plug straight in through the board on the stage and come out the front end. And for people that like an amp or something behind them for, stage presence or, just stage sound, you can use a powered speaker. So that's what I do. I have a powered head rush and I have a Line 6 Helix unit, which fits in a roller case. And you bring a guitar and your cables and maybe a monitor for the stage. So it's the ease and simplicity of the setup. And the cool part is too, like if you're traveling abroad or somewhere and you don't even want to bring your Helix, you can literally download your tones, your presets on a zip drive. And in theory, you could plug that in and use the same unit anywhere else with your presets in the world. So just the idea of that alone, like the efficiency and the simplicity of that and being able to share presets. Like a couple months back, I had somebody that reached out to me about my presets and said, hey, can you send me your presets? Because I really love your tone. And I've done that before for other players. And within 2 minutes, I was able just to, send it over via email and they can load it on their end. So, I really think eventually that's where all the technology is going. So I figured I might as well get them on board with it at some point. So, and it's actually very intuitive too, because remember when amp modeling and the whole processing, guitar effects processing technology started, a lot of it wasn't very intuitive and user friendly. And I think that turned off a lot of players, right? Because as players growing up, we were used to stomping on something, right? Physical up on stage. And that's just sort of how we've been acclimated to things. But now, if you can basically work an iPhone, you can work the Helix system. That's how easy it is to use in terms of the layout and the settings and stuff. So, and I just love the simplicity of it. But yeah, I used the Line 6 Helix on that entire EP and nothing else.
I know that they have like Helix and Head Rush. I know there's a couple of them that they're all coming out, and I've noticed a lot of musicians, going towards that because of the ease of use, and the intuitive. That's the one thing too, I think that, is gravitating, like musicians are gravitating for that, towards that.
Basically, if you can turn on a computer and work on an iPhone, it's the way they're set up now. They're relatively easy. The other unit that's become really popular is Fractal.
Oh,
too.
Fractal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Larry Mitchell uses Fractal stuff, and he had brought his up when we recorded my EP, and I had a chance to check that out. So, they're all great units, the biggest thing is just spending a little time to tweak your own individual sound on it, once you sort of learn the logistics of that and find your sound and what you like, and adjust your settings, you're good to go. So I can't imagine doing it any other way now that I'm so acclimated to this setup and this system. So what I do is for each of my tunes off my EP, and a few others, by the way, that haven't been released yet, I do different patch settings on my board for each of them. So each individual tune is set with, specifically time delay, specific clean tones, specific, lead tones and whatnot for each tune. So that way, when I'm live streaming, I just literally go to the bank on that particular tune, and I have, 6+ presets that are catered towards that individual tune. So I think about the way I used to do it before with individual pedals. And then, sometimes when you're gigging out and you were doing a certain tune, you may have to reach down and tweak something manually. I can't, not that there's anything wrong with that. And I still meet a lot of players that still prefer to do it that way. But now that I'm acclimated to this system, I can't imagine doing it any other way. But the amp modeling technology as a whole has come a long way. It's just completely revolutionized the entire industry on that end. So I can't, I talk with some of my musician friends, and I can't imagine where we're going to be, like another 5-10 years from now. It's just wild what's going on. And then with the MIDI stuff that continues to get better, it's just unbelievable.
A lot of good guitar toys for us to play around with.
Here's the problem with being a modern day guitar player too, is you could spend all day between, tweaking tones, messing with technology, messing with, your recording software and different plugins. It's just endless, so.
I just want to thank you, MJ, for talking to us and just
my pleasure.
Letting us get to know you. Gosh, we definitely want to shout out your social media, your Instagram. Can you tell our listeners where they can follow you?
Sure. So I'm at Major Guitar, MAJ Guitar, which are my initials, Michelle Addison Julian Guitar. That's MAJ Guitar at Instagram. And on Instagram, on my profile section, I have the link tree set up you may be familiar with. And that has links to YouTube, Facebook, Bandcamp, where my EP's on right now. I am in the process of getting it on my EP on Spotify and Apple Music and whatnot. Apparently it's going through the artist review period on CD Baby right now. The platform that you use for Spotify, or one of the platforms, and Apple Music and stuff. So, but if you go to MAJ Guitar on Instagram, there's links via Linktree to all.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely put that in our show notes, all the links, so that our listeners can click on it. So make sure that you visit her Instagram, her YouTube, go on her Linktree, get hooked up on her EP. Definitely, and we can't wait to see you go out there and perform. Definitely follow her so we can see where you're gigging at, who you're touring with.
Hopefully that starts again. It seems like this whole COVID mess is starting to get a little bit better now that we have the immunizations out there. So the gigs will come around again.
Yep, gigs are coming in slowly.
So.
All right.
But thank you for having me, and it's an honor and a pleasure, and I do really appreciate the fact that you guys have included me in your podcast. That means a lot to me. So,
well, we're happy to have you. Season 5, Between Frets, Fret Sisters. Yay! Let's go. All right.
Well, we'll stay in touch, and
okay, definitely.
I appreciate it again, Jenny. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. You take care.
Okay.
Bye.
You too.
Hey, Riff Girl, let's go. Mm-hmm.